Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the College Board Practice Test 1 speed run. This might not be as fast as some of you are hoping because I'm going to take some time to explain some things as we go along, but I'll do the best I can to go quickly as slowly as I can, if that makes any sense. Anyway, without further ado, let's go. Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. Was that it? Had he followed form? Had he asked his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between? Would Chie have been more receptive? An interesting first paragraph, a little bit negative tone. He came on a winter's eve. He pounded on the door while a cold rain beat on the shuttered veranda, so at first Chie thought him only the wind. The maid knew better. Chie heard her soft scuttling footsteps, the creak of the door. Then the maid brought a calling card to the drawing room for Chie. Wow, this level of royalty is way above my, it's going way over my head. Chie was reluctant to go to her guest. Perhaps she was feeling too cozy. She and Naomi were reading at a low table set atop a charcoal brazier. A thick quilt spread over the sides of the table so their legs were tucked inside with the heat. Comfy. Who is it at this hour in this weather? Chie questioned as she picked the name card off the maid's lacquer tray. Shinoda Akira, Kobe Dental College, she read. Naomi recognized the name. Chie heard a soft intake of air. Drama. I think you should go, said Naomi. Okay, so I'm getting from this first left-hand column that, I don't know, the guy is intruding on rich people's house. I think Chie's like a sister or like a mom or something, but we'll find out. Akira was waiting in the entry. He was in his early 20s, slim and serious, wearing the black military-style uniform of a student. As he bowed, his hands hanging straight down, a black cap in one, a yellow oil paper umbrella in the other, Chie glanced beyond him. In the glistening surface of the courtyard's rain-drenched paving stones, she saw his reflection like a dark double. Scary. Madam, said Akira, forgive my disruption, but I come with a matter of urgency. His voice was soft, refined. He straightened and stole a deferential peek at her face. In the dim light, his eyes shone with sincerity. Chie felt herself starting to like him. Come inside, get out of this nasty night. Surely your business can wait for a moment or two. I don't want to trouble you. Normally I would approach you more properly, but I've received word of a position. I have an opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. Congratulations, she said with amusement. That's an opportunity, I'm sure, but how am I involved? Even noting Naomi's breathless reaction to the name card, Chie had no idea. Akira's message, delivered like a formal speech, filled her with maternal amusement. You know how children speak so earnestly, so hurriedly, so endearingly about things that have no importance in an adult's mind. That's how she viewed him as a child. It was how she viewed Naomi. Even though Naomi was 18 and training endlessly in the arts needed to make a good marriage, Chie had made no effort to find her a husband. For shame. Akira blushed. Depending on your response, I may stay in Japan. I've come to ask for Naomi's hand. Suddenly Chie felt the dampness of the night. Does Naomi know anything of your ambitions? We have an understanding. Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. I ask directly because the use of a go-between takes much time. Either method comes down to the same thing, a matter of parental approval. If you give your consent, I'll become Naomi's Yoshi. We'll live in the house of Fuji. Without your consent, I must go to America to secure a new home for my bride. Eager to make his point, he'd been looking her full in the face. Abruptly, his voice turned gentle. I see I've startled you. My humble apologies. I'll take no more of your evening. My address is on my card. If you don't wish to contact me, I'll reapproach you in 2 weeks' time. Reproach wouldn't be very nice. Until then, good night. He bowed and left, taking her ease with effortless grace like a cat making off with a fish. Mother, Chie heard Naomi's low voice and turned to the door. He has asked you. The sight of Naomi's clear eyes, her dark brows gave Chie strength. Maybe his hopes were preposterous. Where did you meet such a fellow? Imagine. He thinks he can marry the Fuji heir and take her to America, all in the snap of his fingers. Chie waited for Naomi's ripe laughter. Naomi was silent. She stood for half a minute, looking straight into Chie's eyes. Finally, she spoke. I met him at my literary meeting. Naomi turned to go back into the house, then she stopped. Mother, yes, I mean to have him. What an ominous-sounding ending. All right, so I'm going to put on screen some of the annotations that I would have done when I was reading this passage, just to track some of the main ideas and stuff. I think overall it was Uh, Not the most positive passage. Yeah, it seems like there's a little bit of family drama going on. I also caught out of the corner of my eye that Chie is the mom. I neglected to read that at the top of the, above the first paragraph, but now we know. Okay, moving on. Which choice best describes what happens in the passage? So, passage question, reading questions in general, we're going to try not to make liars out of ourselves, so let's ensure that our answer choices are as pristinely truthful as possible. Well, let's see. One character argues with another character who intrudes on her home. I don't know if he argued with her. That seems a little weird. One character receives a surprising request from another character. Maybe the surprising request could be like the marriage thing. One character reminisces about choices she has made over the years. This definitely doesn't represent the entire paragraph, the entire passage, given that it was an interaction between three people. One character criticizes another character for pursuing an unexpected course of action. They haven't done the unexpected course of action yet. If anything, like if you wanted to say the unexpected course of action was like the getting married part, then that was just at the very end. And so if they're asking for the whole passage, I think it's B. 2. Which choice best describes the developmental pattern of the passage? Okay, a careful analysis of a traditional practice. There's definitely no way, like I don't think that they mentioned a traditional practice basically anywhere. If I wanted to infer that and say like, oh, this must have been what traditional Japan was like, College Board is once again going to be hiding behind the bushes, waiting for me to say that so that they can just like smack me down. A detailed depiction of a meaningful encounter, maybe. I like I mean, the detailed part I suppose would be the weakness, but it seemed pretty detailed. A definitive response to a series of questions. I don't think we got a clear response. Lie. A cheerful recounting of an amusing anecdote. Amusing, one of those opinion words that I feel like are very hard to quantify. It's really hard to prove that something's amusing. You'd have to like sort of, what's the word? You'd have to find like evidence that the writer intended it to be amusing, which is a little bit, I didn't get the sense from that anywhere here really. So B again. As used in lines 1 and line 65, directly most nearly means, let's go check them out. So in line 1, Akira came directly, breaking all tradition. This is a vocab question, so I'm going to read more to get a little bit more context. Was that it? Had he followed form? Had he approached his mother to speak to his father to approach a go-between, which he had been more receptive? Cool, I remember reading that. 65, I asked directly because the use of a go-between takes much time, either method. Okay, so like both times when they said directly, they were talking about the use of a go-between. I think they said it both, like first on line 4 and then second on line 65. So I think by directly, he means something like without a middle person. C says without mediation, so I think that that's correct. 4, which reaction does Akira most fear from Chie? Oh, and we have our first paired question. So we can do the backdoor strategy if we so choose. I think that this is a nice one to do the backdoor strategy on, considering that the question in 4 doesn't really have any lines, so it doesn't give us any indication of where to look. We could use the sequential line rule, the one that says that like as reading questions increase, so too do their line numbers. So like passage, if you say question 3 had line like 61, 1 to 65, then question 4 typically will have something after that. But given that question 3 had such a weird spread of lines, like 1 to 65, I think it's not entirely clear if I should just discount everything before line 65. Like that seems a little bit risky and a little crazy. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. So I'm gonna just go with these lines and then try to make an informed decision. I'm gonna go with the backdoor strat. I'm gonna look at 5's answers and see which one of these can provide an answer to 4's question while also being able to kind of like while also referencing the stuff in 4's question as much as possible. So let's see. Got 33. His voice was soft, refined. This is not about what Akira fears the most, I don't think. He's scared of his own voice. You know how children speak so earnestly, so hurriedly, so endearingly about things that have no... Again, this is not about Akira fearing anything. I guess I could see that one. Yeah, I could see like a student maybe picking B together with something like 4B, but I think that that's a trap. And then the trap would be because 5B doesn't talk about 4's directions. And so even if you thought that 4B and 5B paired with one another, they wouldn't be answering the question. So let's go make sure that we don't fall into any traps. One of the many traps they lay for us. Please don't judge my candidacy by the unseemliness of this proposal. He sounds pretty concerned to me. I think it might be that. And then 71, 72. Eager to make his point, he'd been looking her full in the face. Okay, this is like the opposite of being scared. He sounds pretty confident. He even dared to look this royal person straight in the face. Oh my goodness. What a brave Yoshi. I think 5 is C. And then based off of 5C, where he was like, yo, please don't judge me, I'm pretty sure that the reason that Akira would most fear from Chie is that she's going to judge him. She's going to judge his candidacy by the unseemliness of his proposal. So A. So 4A, 5C. Yep. 6. Akira addresses Chie with affection but not genuine love. I don't think he's affectionate, really. Objectivity but not complete impartiality. That makes no sense to me. Like, how are you objective but also not completely objective? Okay, yeah. Nice try, College Board. Amusement but not mocking, disparage. I don't think he talks to her with amusement. I feel like that'd be pretty rude. Respect but not utter deference. I think it's probably that. Yeah, he was pretty deferent. He was pretty respectful throughout the entire thing, but then there were some instances where he like dared to look at her face, so I think 6 is D. 7, the main purpose of the first paragraph is to the one where he came directly breaking all tradition and he's wondering about what's going on, like why Chie is mad. Let's see. Describe a culture. I don't think that he and Chie are the entire culture of like Japan. Criticize a tradition. I don't think that he and Chie are the whole tradition of Japan. Question a suggestion. Okay, so like by question here, they mean like to be skeptical about, not to ask questions of. It's like has a negative tone, so I don't think that he's like being like, how dare you suggest that I use a middle person? Like, really? I don't think that would have worked. Pretty sure that that's the wrong tone. And I think it's D. 8, line 2. 4, most nearly, yeah, I can see that this passage, by the way, is making an absolute mess of like that line rule that I was mentioning earlier. It might be a product of this being a really old practice test. Like practice test 1, I think, has been around for quite a long time. So you'll find that the increasing question numbers correlating with increasing line numbers generally is something that you can follow, especially on like the real QAS tests. All right, so 8, as used in line 2, form most nearly means. Was that it? Had he followed form? Had he followed like the proper way? I'm gonna create my own answer there. Had he followed appearance? No, that reading is a custom. I think it's probably B. 9. Why does Akira say his meeting with Chie is a matter of urgency? Once again, I mean, I know question 4 didn't have any lines in it, and that's the reason why we did the backdoor strat. But I like the backdoor strat because it really narrows down the amount of things that I need to consider if you just keep in mind that. Well, ideally 10 should mention the stuff in 9's directions and answer it. So let's see if we can find a line that answers why it's a matter of urgency. I don't want to trouble you. Normally I would approach you more properly, but I've received word of a position. I don't want to. Oh, it just goes to I don't want to trouble you, so it's definitely not that. So B, 39 to 42. Normally I would approach you more properly, but I received of a position. I have an opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. Say maybe. I'm not sure necessarily, like maybe. I'm not sure that it mentions the matter of urgency too explicitly there, and then so I'm going to put this one on hold. There might be another one that's better later on. If not, I'll come back to it. 58 to 59. Depending on your response, I may stay in Japan. I've come to ask for Naomi's hand. Another one that's kind of like, yeah, maybe. 72, 73. Abruptly, his voice turned gentle. I see it's definitely not that. Okay, so then we're going to look for 10. It's 10B and 10C, and then we can just rely on the other rule of paired evidence questions, that being that everything in 9, the top question, should be supported. So like everything in 9's answer choice has to be backed up. So if I'm looking at this and I'm kind of like B and C, what B was talking about how he's going to like the dentist community, and then C is saying like depending on your answer, I may have to go to America. I think that both of those could arguably be lined up with 9C. But I think that the one that matches with every component in 9C, the reason why Akira says his meeting with Chie is a matter of urgency is because he has been offered an attractive job in another country. We want to make sure that our line mentions that he's been offered a job in another country. And so let's see. Yeah, I've received word of a position. I have an opportunity to go to America as dentist for Seattle's Japanese community. Given that 10 has like this really nice sort of word-for-word correlation with 9C, I think that it's B. I'm going to check 10C just one more time just to make sure. Yeah, as you can see, there's no mention there of like his job or the country. Other country. He says Japan, but not America. So I think it's 9C and 10B. Easy. Moving on. All right. Every day, millions of shoppers hit the stores in full force, both online and on foot, searching frantically for the perfect gift. Last year, Americans spent over $30 billion at retail stores in the month of December alone. Aside from purchasing holiday gifts, most people regularly buy presents for other occasions throughout the year, including weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, and baby showers. This frequent experience of gift giving can engender ambivalent feelings in gift givers. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because giving gifts offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. At the same time, many dread the thought of buying gifts. They worry that their purchases will disappoint rather than delight the intended recipients. Positive and negative paragraph. Anthropologists describe gift-giving as a positive social process serving various political, religious, and psychological functions. Economists, however, contrast transition. That's important. You'll see it on screen, but then whenever I see a contrast transition, I'll mark it. It's generally a sign that there's like a new main idea being introduced. So usually a helpful line to pay attention to, if not annotate. Economists, however, offer a less favorable view. Like you can see here, it changes to negative. According to Wildfogel, gift giving represents an objective waste of resources. People buy gifts that recipients would not choose to buy on their own, or at least not spend as much money to purchase, a phenomenon referred to as the deadweight loss of Christmas. To wit, givers are likely to spend $100 to purchase a gift that receivers would spend only $80 to buy themselves. This deadweight loss suggests that gift givers are not very good at predicting what gifts others will appreciate. That's why you just don't give gifts. There you go. That in itself is not surprising to social psychologists. Research has found that people often struggle to take account of others' perspectives. Their insights are subject to egocentrism, social projection, and multiple attribution errors. Okay? Not such a good paragraph, pretty negative. What's surprising is that gift givers have considerable experience acting as both gift givers and gift recipients, but, contrast, nevertheless, double contrast, so important sentence, even though it's the first sentence anyway of the paragraph, tend to overspend each time they set out to purchase a meaningful gift. In the present research, we propose a unique psychological explanation for this overspending problem, i.e., that gift givers equate how much they spend with how much recipients will appreciate the gift. The more expensive the gift, the stronger the gift recipient's feelings of appreciation. Although, this is another contrast, although a link between gift price and feelings of appreciation might seem intuitive to gift givers, such an assumption may be unfounded. Indeed, we propose that gift recipients will be less inclined to base their feelings of appreciation on the magnitude of a gift than givers assume. To base their feelings of appreciation on the magnitude of a gift than givers assume. Why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely linked to gift recipients' feelings of appreciation? Perhaps givers believe that bigger, i.e. more expensive gifts, convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. According to Kammerer and others, gift giving represents a symbolic ritual whereby gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitudes towards the intended recipient and their willingness to invest resources in a future relationship. In this sense, gift givers may be motivated to spend more money on a gift in order to send a stronger signal to their intended recipient. As for gift recipients, they may not construe smaller and larger gifts as representing smaller and larger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. The notion of gift givers and gift recipients being unable to account for the other party's perspective seems puzzling because people slip in and out of these roles every day, and in some cases, multiple times in the course of the same day. Yet, despite contrast, the extensive experience that people have as both givers and receivers, they often struggle to transfer information gained from one role, e.g. as a giver, and apply it in another complementary role, e.g. as a receiver. In theoretical terms, people fail to utilize information about their own preferences and experiences in order to produce more efficient outcomes in their exchange relations. In practical terms, people spend hundreds of dollars each year on gifts, but somehow never learn to calibrate their gift expenditures according to personal insight. Cool. So now we're justified in giving people like a toothpick for Christmas. Nice. 11. The authors most likely use the examples in lines 1 to 9 of the passage to highlight the. Well, let's make sure if they ask for lines 1 to 9, we pay attention to line 1 through 9. Now, every day, millions of shoppers hit the store in full force, both online and on foot, searching frantically for the perfect gift. That is the first sentence of this paragraph. That constitutes the framing sentence of this entire paragraph, meaning like the first sentence within a paragraph is going to reflect the main idea of the paragraph as a whole, unless there's a contrast transition later on, in which case it might switch. So if I'm looking at lines 1 to 9, then 1 to 9 is all operating under the sentence of millions of shoppers hit the store. It's talking about something with like the frequency, or like how many people are involved in like buying gifts and things like that. I think that that's going to be an important component of the answer. Last year Americans, yeah, okay. So let's see if we can break it down. Highlight the regularity with which people shop for gifts. Yeah, it might be that. It's not recent, so lie. Anxiety to lie. Number of special occasions involved in gift. I saw this. So this actually makes me want to bring up a point here, where I saw that there were a lot of days where you would buy presents, like especially around line 9 towards the end, like the weddings, birthdays, anniversaries, graduations, baby showers, and whatnot. But like I was saying earlier, when they're talking about like what's the main point of lines 1 through 9 is, it's really important to consider sort of what the main idea operating on all of those lines is. And the main idea operating on all of those lines is that there's tons of shoppers, right? Like if the main idea of lines 1 through 9 was intended to be about how many days there are to give people gifts, then that should have been the framing sentence all the way up at line 1, and the fact that it isn't tells me that D is a trap. Nice try, College Board. I think it's A. 12, in line 10, the word ambivalent most nearly means ambi, both, valeo, to wish for, means you're like torn. This frequent experience of gift giving can engender ambivalent feelings in gift givers. If you didn't know the Latin roots, it's a vocab question, so just keep reading for context. So if you're like, oh, it can engender some kind of feelings in gift givers, then just keep reading and then see if the paragraph will provide you with any information that's going to be helpful. So many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. At the same time, many dread the thought of buying gifts. Oh, nice. I didn't even need to know what ambivalent meant. So it doesn't mean like torn or like both, or it's B, conflicted. 13, the authors indicate that people value gift giving because they feel it. Well, let's go do the backdoor strat, I guess. So the two things to remember, as we've seen earlier, is that let's make sure that 14 references and answers the question in 13 as much as possible. And then once we get down to the pairing phase, we want to make sure that everything in 13 is in fact true, meaning has evidence. So they value gift giving because they feel it. Let's try 10 to 13. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. Promising. 22 to 23. People buy gifts that recipients would not choose to buy on their own. I don't think this is why they value gift giving. So nice, the backdoor strat coming to the rescue to get rid of 14B for us. 14C, 31 to 32. Research has found that people often struggle to take it. Again, I don't think that this is why they value it, because it's like negative. 44 to 47. Although it's linked between gift giving, oh, this is the one where the main clause said like the assumption is wrong. I'm pretty sure 14 is A. So making quick, the backdoor strat making quick work of this question. So 14. Just gonna go check that one again. Many relish the opportunity to buy presents because gift giving offers a powerful means to build stronger bonds with one's closest peers. So the authors indicate that people value gift giving because they feel it gives them a chance to build stronger bonds with their peers. I think it's D. Nice. 15, the social psychologist mentioned in paragraph 2, line 17 to 34, would likely describe the dead weight loss phenomenon as. Let's go see what they said. So keeping in line with the law of all reading questions, like it has to have evidence. The College Board won't take our word for it. Like they don't really trust us. So we need to make sure that we can point at the passage and say, hey, like those are the guys who said it, not me. All right. 17 to 34, and about where is this dead weight loss of phenomenon? Line 25. Let's go find where social psychologists are. To wit, likely to spend. Yeah, sure. This dead weight loss suggests that gift givers are not very good at predicting what others will appreciate. Great. That in itself not surprising to social psychologists. I see them there, so I suppose they're going to feel not surprised. They would describe the dead weight loss phenomenon as predictable because it's not surprising. There we go. 16-17 looks like a paired question. The passage indicates that the assumption made by gift givers in lines 41 to 44 may be 41 to 44. They equate how much they spend with how much recipients will appreciate the gift. Oh, okay, so then I don't even have to backdoor this, I think. Like, I know that the answer for that is that it's wrong. They said in that sentence that we just read for the earlier question, 2 questions ago, I think it was like 14D, that was the one where they said that the assumption was incorrect. So 16 is going to be, let's see, C? Because B, B unreasonable would imply that, well, it wouldn't imply, it would mean that I think that they're being crazy, like they're beyond reason. A little bit rude, and scientists typically aren't that rude to one another, so I think it's 16C. And now I can solve this the normal way, but I'm still going to keep the same rules in mind, where 17 ideally should talk about the assumption, which is that more money equals better gift, and that it should also say that it's incorrect. So let's see. 53. Perhaps people believe that bigger gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. This is the assumption, but I don't think it matches with 16C's incorrect part. Like, it just said that, oh, maybe this is what they think, and it didn't have that sort of definite feeling of, no, they're wrong. 55 to 60, according to Kammerer and others, gift-giving represents a symbolic... Okay, this is just some other weird dudes, like... Not weird, sorry. I don't know who Kammerer is. I'm sure he's a wonderful individual. It's just within the context of the SAT. All these people become colored with what's the word? They become a little bit questionable in the eyes of the test taker. All right, 63 to 65. As for gift recipients, they may not construe smaller and larger gifts as representing smaller and larger signals of thought. I like this answer choice. This looks pretty close to it saying that it's incorrect. I also like that it didn't use the word like incorrect, so that College Board, I can tell that College Board's kind of being like, oh, I really hope you don't read this line carefully. Like, I really hope you forget to read all of the words. And I'm like, oh, well, we've got you figured out. All right, so 75, 78. In theoretical terms, people fail to utilize information about their own preferences and experiences in order to produce more efficient outcomes in their exchange. I believe that this is not about the assumption. People failed, yeah, people not utilizing the information about their own preferences in order to have a more efficient gift exchange is not saying that the assumption that more expensive gift equals better gift is better. We need, or is wrong. We need something that says it explicitly. So I'm pretty sure that 17 is C. Let's see, moving on. 18, as used in line 54, convey most nearly means. Where is it? Perhaps givers believe that bigger, i.e. more expensive gifts convey stronger signals of thoughtfulness and consideration. Convey, like they communicate or something. Lo and behold, it happens to be that one of the answer choices, so nice, D. This is the power of targeting. Targeting is when you read a sentence, read a question, and then try to generate your own answer for it. So that's what I did on 18, and that's generally what I do on a lot of vocab questions. You'll find that maybe like, a little less than like half of the time, but quite often you'll find that you'll be able to generate the correct word, because vocab questions nowadays are not so much about vocab, but very much about matching with context. So you'll sort of have heard the correct word to use in that context before and sometimes produce it. 19, the authors refer to work by Kammerer and others, the fine gentleman whom I didn't intend to insult. I'm sure he's a wonderful father and individual. Okay, so Kammerer and others in line 56 in order 2. According to Kammerer and others, gift-giving represents a symbolic ritual whereby gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitudes towards the intended recipient and their willingness to invest resources in a future relationship. Yeah, so it's this wonderful, the honorable man's like viewpoint. So let's see, offer an explanation, introduce an argument. I didn't get the sense that it's like a persuasive sort of thing. I thought that he was just offering a kind of like a, what's the word? He was presenting his idea sort of like in a more neutral way. I didn't feel like he was kind of like pushing for it. Question a motive. Again, question is negative. It means to be skeptical of someone's motive. And then so I don't think he's like a detective who's like trying to catch a murderer. Support a conclusion. I'm not sure that, so it's going to be A or D. So then I feel like A is the more neutral one, and D has a little bit more of a persuasive flair. But let's see if we can find a little evidence to back up our choice, because the correct answer should always have some evidence involved. So I'm just going to read that paragraph again. Let's see. Why do gift givers assume that gift price is closely related to this? Perhaps it's that. Cameron thinks it's that. Whereby gift givers attempt to signal their positive attitudes and their willingness in a future relationship. In this sense, gift givers may be motivated to spend more money. So maybe, I'm noticing a lot of conditionals here, to spend more money on a gift in order to send a stronger signal to their intended recipient. As for gift recipients, they may not construe smaller and larger. Okay, so then I'm getting the sense that this is a paragraph full of mays, like maybes, could, those kinds of conditional mood indicators. So I'm going to side with A here, I think, because if it were D, then I think it would have carried a much more definitive tone. All right, 20. The graph following the passage offers evidence that gift givers base their predictions on how much a gift will be appreciated on the graph. Okay, so then how much do they think that it will be appreciated? Gift, make sure that you're always reading the title, the XY axis and legend. So givers perceived and recipients' actual gift appreciations. When the giver gave a less expensive gift, they thought they're perceived. Okay, so that when the giver gave a less expensive gift, they thought it was going to be like appreciated a little or less, and then it actually was appreciated more. And then when the giver gave it and the recipients actually, yeah. Oh, no. It's like when the giver gave a less expensive gift, he thought that it was going to be like less appreciated. And when he gave a more expensive gift, or he thought it was going to be more appreciated. And with the recipient, when they received a less expensive gift, they actually appreciated it more. And then when they received a more expensive gift, they still appreciated it, but not that much. All right, so let's see. Offers evidence that gift givers base their predictions of how much a gift will be appreciated on, as it wasn't like its price or something, so B. Just checking the other answer choices, but I'm pretty sure that it's B. The authors would likely attribute the differences in gift giver and recipient mean appreciation as represented in the graph to. Now, let's make sure that we're not inferring here. I know that this question sounds like they're asking us to, or that they're even inviting us to, with phrasing such as would likely attribute. But we want to make sure that we have something as, like I said earlier, College Board's not going to take our word for it, so we want something from the passage that we can use as proof. So couple answer choices here, I think, that I can eliminate like right away for being sort of random, or I don't remember them having talking about this thing in the passage, like B, for example. The increasingly materialistic culture, I don't think is what they blamed for this difference in gift giver and recipient mean appreciation. A growing opposition to gift giving sounds preposterous to me. It sounds very random. A misunderstanding of intentions, perhaps. I think it's going to be A or D. And then given that this is the last question, I believe this is going to be towards the end. Let's see. I think it was the main idea of one of these sentences that I kind of mentally took note of as I was reading through it. Okay, so I think it's like line 66. Yeah, the notion of gift givers and gift recipients being unable to account for the other party's perspective. See that? Being unable to account for their perspective. I think that it's 21 is A. Nice. Onwards, making good progress. I'm going to take some of my own advice and then maybe read this blurb up top because it looks quite larger than normal. Like typically they're like 2 or 3 lines. So I'm just going to read it to make sure that I'm not missing anything like I was on the first passage. So let's see. That's just great. Okay. Watson and Crick deduced the structure of DNA using evidence from Rosalind Franklin and R.G. Gosling's X-ray crystallography diagrams of DNA and from Erwin Chargaff's data on the base composition of DNA. Great. Fantastic. I'm sure that's not going to help, but we'll see. The chemical formula of deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, is now well established. The molecule is a very long chain, the backbone of which consists of regular alteration of sugar and phosphate groups. To each sugar is attached a nitrogenous base, which can be of 4 different types. 2 of the possible bases, adenine and guanine, I hope I'm pronouncing those right, are purines, and the other 2, thymine and cytosine, are pyrimidines. Also hope I'm pronouncing those right. So far as is known, the sequence of bases along the chain is irregular. The monomer unit, consisting of phosphate, sugar, and base, is known as a nucleotide. Thank you for the chemistry lesson. All right. Biology lesson? Like, whatever. Okay, the first feature of our structure, which is of biological interest, is that it consists not of 1 chain, but 2, contrast transition. In the first sentence, though, so we're going to pay attention to it anyway. These 2 chains are both coiled around a common fiber axis. It has often been assumed that since there was only 1 chain in the chemical formula, there would only be 1 in the structural unit. However, contrast, the density taken with X-ray evidence suggests very strongly that there are 2. Cool. The other biologically important feature is the manner in which the two chains are held together. This is done by hydrogen bonds between the bases. The bases are joined together in pairs, a single base from one chain being hydrogen bonded to a single base from the other. The important point is that only certain pairs of bases will fit into the structure. One member of a pair must be a purine and the other a pyrimidine in order to bridge between the two chains. If a pair consisted of two purines, for example, there would not be room for it. Purines are big boys. Okay. We believe that the bases will be present almost entirely in their most probable forms. If this is true, the conditions for forming hydrogen bonds are more restrictive, and the only pairs of bases possible are adenine with thymine, so AT, and guanine with cytosine, GC. Adenine, for example, can occur on either chain, but, contrast, though it's just making the same point here anyway, when it does, its partner on the other chain must always be thymine. Notice that that's a pretty extreme sentence, so that is going to likely be a factor if they ask me about like how these things pair or whatnot. The fact that they said must always be is a level of certainty that's like pretty unusual for a science passage. So just something that jumped out at me. The phosphate sugar backbone of our model is completely regular, but, contrast, any sequence of the pairs of bases can fit into the structure. It follows that in a long molecule, many different permutations are possible, and it therefore seems likely that the precise sequence of bases is the code which carries the genetic information. If the actual order of the bases on one of the pair of chains were given, one could write down the exact order of the bases on the other one because of specific pairing. Nice. Thus, one chain is, as it were, the complement of the other, and it is this feature which suggests how the deoxyribonucleic acid molecule might duplicate itself. Cool. I notice these guys don't like using commas after like transition words, like on line 48, like thus. There was another sentence earlier, I think it was like, I lost it. Nice. But it's not really super relevant. Okay. 22. The authors use the word backbone in line 3 and 39 to indicate that. Let's go check it out. Okay, so keep in mind that, like I was saying on passage 2, if they're asking for embedded information within a paragraph, it can be really helpful to know what sort of the main idea operating on that information is. So in this case, the first sentence was talking about how it's well established. I think that that's going to exert somewhat of an effect on like the next sentence, but let's see. The molecule is a very long chain, the backbone of which consists of a regular alteration of sugar and phosphate groups. Okay, so I guess that they're saying that this is kind of like its foundation or something. I think the other line was 39. Let's see. The phosphate sugar backbone of our model is completely regular. Yeah, I think it has something to do with sort of like that which the rest of the molecule is based off of. So only very long chains of DNA can be taken from an organism with a spinal. This is both random and it says an extreme, like only, meaning like only that's the only thing in the entire universe, because that's literally what only means, so a little bit crazy. The main structure of a chain in a DNA molecule is composed of repeating units. I'm not sure. A chain in a DNA molecule consists entirely of phosphate groups or a sugar. The entirely is super extreme again. It's saying that it's only phosphate groups or sugar and nothing else. I think it was talking about like nitrogenous bases or hydrogen or something, like nucleotide bases. Yeah. So then I'm pretty sure that's wrong. Nitrogenous bases form the main structural unit of DNA. Let's see which one it is, if it's B and D. The thing that stands out to me with 22B is the repeating part. And then so I want to see if I can establish that in both lines 3 and 39. If it's in one of them, it might not be enough. It should be in both. Regular alteration of sugar and phosphate group, maybe. The phosphate sugar backbone of our model is completely regular, but any sequence in the pairs can fit into the model. I think that it might be B, given that they did have this sort of like repeating sort of element, and then the nitrogenous bases weren't the main structural unit of DNA. I think that they said the phosphates and the sugars were, so then B. 23. A student claims that nitrogenous bases pair randomly with one another. Oh, how dare he wasn't paying attention. Which of the following statements in the passage contradicts the student's claims? Okay, it's going to be one that says, oh, it might be the extreme sentence that I pointed out earlier. Is it? Or maybe close to it? I don't think they give it to us, but let's see. To each sugar's attached nitrogenous base, it can be, nope. 9 to 10. So far as is known, the sequence of bases along the chain is irregular. Nope. 23 to 25, like that would support him, kind of. The bases are joined together in pairs, a single being a single base with another. Nope. I don't think. Maybe, but I feel like it would be clearer. One member of a pair must be oh, it is the extreme, well, it is an extreme sentence. It's not the one that I pointed out on line 37 earlier, but must is definitely pretty strong, and so I'm pretty sure this is D. 24, in the second paragraph, lines 12 to 19, what do the authors claim to be a feature of biological interest? Oh, just ask me what they say. Let's see. The first feature of our structure, which is a biological interest, is that it consists not of one chain, but two. Okay, I think it's the fact that it has two chains. D? Great. Thanks, College Board. 25. The author's main purpose of including the information about X-ray evidence and density is to X-ray evidence and density. Now, I'm going to try to use the sequential line rule here. I already knew that it didn't work in passage 1, but maybe that was a fluke. I mean, it's something that generally, if you get a line list question, like what's in here in 25, it's generally something that you would want to rely on in order to sort of ballpark what line you're looking for. So if 24 is talking about 12 to 19 and 26 is talking about 29 to 30, then I'm going to guess that this X-ray evidence and density stuff is going to be between that. So let's see. Well, I see X-ray there. Oh, it's right there, actually. Yeah, so it's line 17. Is that between what we're looking for? Not too well. It is after line 12. It's a little bit, I wouldn't say it's after 19, but let's go check it out. However, the density taken with the X-rays suggests very strongly that there are two. Okay, cool. So this is just a corroborating piece of evidence to support the fact that it has two chains. Just scanning real quick to see if there's anything else there, but I don't know. So maybe establish that DNA is a molecule that carries the genetic information. I don't think so. Present an alternate hypothesis about the composition of a nucleotide. I don't think X-ray evidence and density is what composes a nucleotide, but it's just me. Provide support for the author's claim about the number of chains in a molecule of DNA. Well, most definitely. Confirm the relationship between the density of DNA and known chemical formula of DNA. Random? Okay, let's see. Where are the paired questions here? How is there not a single one? It's weird. Based on the passage, the author's statement, if a pair consisted of two purines, for example, there would not be room for it, implies that. Again, I don't want to imply too much. I only want to imply sort of only if that's the only, like, if I want to imply if that's the only other course of action. Generally, I would think of it as like answer choices that are false or sort of 100% wrong. Answer choices that require you to infer or assume things 1% right, like they're almost definitely wrong. And then true answers, I would say, are going to be right nearly all the time, like let's say around 99%. And then the only reason it's not 100 is because sometimes you can have two answer choices that both are supported by the passage. If that happens, though, you likely misread the directions, because there's no way that College Board is going to give you a test that has two right answers. So you might think that there are two true answers. There might actually be two answer choices that are corroborated by the passage, but only one of them would answer the question. But okay, so here, there would not be room for it implies that a pair, again, I don't like the implication part, but let's see. If a pair consists of two purines, for example, there would not be room of it. So, it's saying the purines are big boys. Okay, so let's see. A implies that a pair of purines would be larger than the space between a sugar and, no, it's larger than pyrimidines, I think. So, of purines would be larger than a pair consisting of a purine and a pyrimidine, maybe. A pair of pyrimidines would be larger, that's backwards, and then a pair consisting of a purine and a pyrimidine would be larger than a pair of pyrimidine. It's B or C, but then I think that B is the one that's clearer, because like they were talking specifically about the purines. They said two purines in the question itself. So once again, this is actually perfect. Like I was just talking about how sometimes you'll have a situation that looks like two true answers. B and D look kind of like they could be right. But then if I go reference the direction, they ask specifically for what the two purines means. And then so if I answer that two purines is something that has to do with a purine and pyrimidine, College Board might once again be just ecstatic and, waiting to share the sad information with me that I inferred a little bit too far. So I think the answer is B. 27. The author uses the word exact, specific, and complement in lines 47 to 49 in the final paragraph function. The author's use of the words exact, specific, and complement in lines 47 to 49 in the final paragraph functions mainly too. Cool. If the actual... Let me just check the words again. Okay, I'm good. If the actual order of the bases on one of the pairs of chains were given, one could write down the exact order of the bases on the other one, because a specific pairing does one change as it were, is as it were the complement of the other. So he's using these to say that they pair together very precisely, something like that. Functions mainly to say how they, if you have like one side of the chain, you can tell the other. To confirm that nucleotide sequences are known for most molecules of DNA. Well, that's quite off topic, I think. Like, I don't, this is making it say that the, like, answer choice A would mean that the researchers know, like, everyone's DNA code now, which, okay, I don't know where we're getting that. Final pair functions mainly to counter the claim that the sequence of bases along a chain can occur in any order. Not only is that extreme, but it's also extremely wrong. It's like backwards. Support the claim that phosphate sugar backbone of the author's model is completely regular. I don't know about the completely part. That is also extremely extreme, for lack of a better term. It would mean that there's no sort of irregularity whatsoever, like at all. And I'm like, well, isn't DNA kind of like in a weird, irregular order? Emphasize how one chain of DNA may serve as a template to be... It's D. All right, moving on. Based on the table and passage, which choice gives the correct percentages of purines in yeast DNA? Oh, fantastic. They told us earlier which one the purines were. I think it was somewhere here on this first column. Right, it was right at the first paragraph right here. So 2 of the possible bases adenine are purines. The pyrimidines are T and C. So we want to find AG, I believe. Just going to double check. Yeah, we want to find AG for yeast, adenine, and guanine. So yeast, adenine, and guanine. 31.3, 18.7, 31.3, 18, C. Do the data in the table support the author's proposed pairing of bases in DNA? Oh, yeah. So he said it can't be 2 purines. It has to be like one with the other. That was the extreme sentence on line 37.6 that I pointed out. And nice, lo and behold, it does factor into our solving of this question. So a good thing to be on the lookout for. All right. So we are looking for sort of like similar levels of A and T, along with similar levels of G and C. I think that we're kind of seeing it, 26, 27, 22, 23 for maize, 33, 31, 17, 17, 28, 28, 22, 21. I would say that this is a rough yes. I'm just going to scan the rest real quick just to make sure. But yeah, if we look at these middle 2 columns, we can see them kind of matching. If I look at the outer 2 columns, I can see them kind of matching. I mean, not exactly, but it's quite close. So I think that do the data in the table support the author's proposed? Yeah, I think it does, because for each given organism, the percentage of adenine is closest to the percentage of thymine, and the percentage of guanine is closest to the percentage of cytosine. I think that's right. Yes, because for each given organism, the percentage of adenine is closest to the percentage of guanine. This is a lie, so it's a 30. According to the table, which of the following pairs of base percentages in sea urchin DNA provide evidence in support of the answer to... Oh, like this is a paired question, sort of, even though it's not really. So, okay, that's weird. Which of the following pairs of base percentages in sea urchin DNA provides evidence in support of the answer? So sea urchin, we need something where A matches with T or G matches with C. So we need 32, 32, or 17, 17. 32, 32, 30... 32, there's no 32, 32. There's only one 17, so A. Based on the table, is the percentage of adenine in each organism's DNA the same, or does it vary? And which statement made by the authors is most consistent with the data? Now, interesting. So if you're saying that they're the same, now what that literally means is that they're exactly the same, because that's what the same means. Like, if you meant to say that there was a certain degree of variance between the two, then you would have used the word like similar or something. So the fact that SAT, College Board, used the word the same means that they meant to use it that way. And then so I'm pretty sure that there's no way that this answer could say that they're literally the same. Because if that were the case, then like not only would people be like clones of one another, but they also wouldn't have any of the DNA like changes or mutations that occur on an individual basis. So it's a little bit insane. So I think it's C or D. Let's just see which one could... Yeah, it talks about how it varies. 36. Adenine, for example, can occur on either chain, but when it does, its partner on the other chain must always... Okay, this is, I think, not saying that it's varying. 41 to 45. It follows that in a long molecule, many different permutations are possible, and it therefore seems likely that the precise sequence of bases is the code. Okay, so I think that the fact that it's talking about different permutations here is the support that I need in order to pick D. Onward. Oh, everyone's favorite history passage. Sorry, I'm going to hydrate real quick. Please excuse me. I wasn't able to find a cup before this. I have yet to catch up on some chores. Okay, moving on. Close at hand is a bridge over the river Thames. Thames? I think? Thames. Okay, an admirable vantage ground for us to make a survey. The river flows beneath. Barges pass laden with timber, bursting with corn. There on one side are the domes and spires of the city, on the other Westminster and the Houses of Parliament. It's a place to stand on by the hour dreaming, but not now. Contrast. Now we are pressed for time. And you'll notice that with that contrast came a shift in the paragraph's tone. It started off on a positive tone, sort of describing how it was an admirable vantage ground, how the bridge was like an admirable vantage ground. But then it shifts sort of to this sense of like, it's a bit more urgent now. Now we're pressed for time. So now we are here to consider the facts. Now we must fix our eyes upon the procession of sons of educated men. Okay, so nice. Contrast indicating that there's a topic shift, just as it very often does. There they go, our brothers who have been educated at public schools and universities, mounting those steps, passing in and out of those doors, ascending those pulpits, preaching, teaching, administering justice, practicing medicine, transacting business, making money. This seems like a really long sentence, but then like the main clause is literally there they go. And then so that's what this entire paragraph is going to be about until there's a contrast. It's a really sort of good demonstration of how finding the independent clause within a sentence can sort of like help you weed through a lot of the chaff. That was like a combination of two metaphors, but okay. But now, for the past 20 years or so, it is no longer a site contrast. It's no longer a site merely, a photograph or fresco scrawled upon the walls of time, at which we can look with merely an aesthetic appreciation. Once again, tons of dependent clauses, like the main clause is like, but now it's no longer a site merely. That's it. So pretty clear idea. For there, traipsing along at the tail end of the procession, we go ourselves, and that makes a difference. We who have looked so long at the pageant in books or from a curtained window watched educated men leaving the house at about 9:30 to go to an office, returning to the house at about 6:30 from an office, need look passively no longer. Once again, tons of dependent clauses, lots of relative clauses going on in there, lots of like participial phrases and this kind of stuff. But the main clause would be, we need look passively no longer. So once again, showing that if you can reduce these down to their independent clauses, these scary history passages lose their fangs. Okay, need to look passively no longer. We too can leave the house, can mount those steps, pass in and out of those doors, make money, administer justice. We who now agitate these humble pens may another century or two speak from a pulpit. Nobody will dare contradict us then. We shall be the mouthpieces of the divine spirit. A solemn thought, is it not? Who can say whether, as time goes on, we may not dress in military uniform with gold lace on our breasts, sword at our sides, and something like the old family coal scuttle on our heads, whatever that is. Sorry. Save that venerable object was never decorated with plumes of white horsehair. You laugh. Indeed, the shadow of the private house still makes those dresses look a little queer. We have worn private clothes so long, but we have not come here to laugh. So this is nice. You'll notice I kind of glossed over a lot of that, and the reason was that it didn't have a different main idea from the one that they had already established. Like on line 19, when they said that contrast way back when, and they shifted to the idea of how it's not a site anymore and that it's something that they can participate in. That's literally what every main clause was talking about from that point on to the end of this column. So, nice way to reduce it. So from line 45, we have another contrast indicating that we might have another main idea coming in. Let's see. But we have not come here to laugh or to talk fashions, men's and women's. We are here on the bridge to ask ourselves certain questions. Okay, so contrast indicating that we're shifting to this sort of, we're going to ask ourselves some questions. Let's see, similar to the previous contrast transition, because this paragraph is so long, this is going to be a good way to indicate it, I think. But let's see how long it sort of sticks with that idea of we're here to ask ourselves some questions. And they are very important questions, and we have very little time in which to answer them. The questions that we have to ask and to answer about that procession during this moment of transition are so important that they may well change the lives of all men and women forever. For we have to ask ourselves here and now, do we wish to join that procession or don't we? On what terms shall we join the procession? Above all, where is it leading us, the procession of educated men? The moment is short. It may last 5 years, 10 years, or perhaps only a matter of a few months longer. But, okay, so then from that top of the second column contrast, all the way down to here, yeah, I would say that was a large chunk of paragraph that was pretty much devoted to those very questions that contrast sentence. Well, it was the one right after, but that contrast sentence was talking about. Okay, but you will object. You have no time to think. You have your battles to fight, your rent to pay, your bazaars to organize. That excuse shall not serve you, madam. So, okay, so but you'll object that you have other things to do. And then she lays out her answer really clearly. She's like, that's not good enough. As you know from your own experience, and there are facts to prove it, the daughters of educated men have always done their thinking from hand to mouth, not under green lamps at study tables in the cloisters of secluded colleges. They have thought while they stirred the pot, while they rocked the cradle. It was thus that they won us the right to our brand new sixpence. It falls to us now to go on thinking, how are we to spend that sixpence? Think we must. Let us think in offices, in omnibuses, while we are standing in the crowd watching coronations and Lord Mayor's shows. Let us think in the gallery of the House of Commons, in the law courts. Let us think at baptisms and marriages and funerals. Let us never cease from thinking, what is the civilization? What is this civilization in which we find ourselves? This was a really interesting pattern going on here, because from line 71, when she said think we must, I know it sounded like she was listing off a lot of locations or events like coronations, Lord Mayor's show, law courts, this kind of thing. But if you track the main clauses of those sentences, starting with the one on line 72, the let us think. Like, let us think is literally the main clause. Then the in omnibuses, in offices, in omnibus is like prepositional phrase, while we're standing in the crowd, this is like a dependent clause. Watching coronations and mayor's show, this is a participial phrase. So let us think, again, is another main clause following that. And then prepositional phrase. Line 76, let us think, prepositional phrase. Let us never cease from thinking. So that entire chunk, like for whatever reason the author's mysterious reason was, although I'm pretty sure we can tell, she's very strongly emphasizing the fact that we want to think here. So interesting. What are these ceremonies? Let us never cease from thinking. What is the civilization in which we find ourselves? What are these ceremonies and why should we take part in them? What are these professions and why should we make money out of them? Where, in short, is it leading us? The processions of the sons of educated men. Cool. Onwards. The main purpose of the passage is two. Okay, so I would say the passage overall was weirdly like a positive tone. It had the sense of like women could kind of like were in the process of becoming included in like the societal things that are going on. So let's see. Main pairs of them emphasize the value of I don't think it's a tradition. Like, sadly, history hasn't been really nice to the ladies. Stress the urgency of an issue. Maybe she did have that whole second column that was talking about how we have to ask ourselves certain questions and we don't have a lot of time. And let us think. So maybe. See, highlight the severity of social divisions. Yeah, this is the opposite. I thought that it had more of an inclusive tone. And question the feasibility of an undertaking. This test really likes the question thing. Like, I don't know why College Board seems to be of the opinion that like lots of people don't know what that means. Or I don't know, but we'll see. So question, I don't think she's being skeptical. She actually sounds pretty like galvanized. I think it's B. 33, the central claim of the passage is that educated women must face a decision about how to engage with existing institutions. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. That was the whole procession thing. Women can have positions of influence in England society only if they give up some of their traditional roles. I don't think he said that you can, the only way to be a lawyer is if you like stop being a mom or something. The only is extreme. All right, see, the male monopoly on power in English society has to have grave and continuing effects. This would be like an inference, I guess, if you're like, oh, like that's the reason why she says that we can join the procession now. It's because like the male patriarchy or whatever was like in charge of society before then, but that wasn't what this author stated directly. And like I said earlier, like College Board's not going to take our word for it, so I'm pretty sure C is way off. D, the entry of educated women into positions of power traditionally held by men will transform those positions. Okay, so like becoming a woman president will change the nature of the presidency. I don't think she said that. Pretty sure it's A. Wolf uses the word we throughout the passage too. We? To say we? Like to sound inclusive or something? First person plural? Yeah, okay, so I can see like tons of we. Line 25, line 30, line 32. Yeah, I thought that it was to get a sense of like, oh, like we women can now join the procession. Reflective growing friendliness. Get out of here. Advance the need for candor. I don't think we shows that you want to be like honest with people. Establish a sense of solidarity among a group of people. Probably reinforce the need for respect among a group of. It's C. Okay, moving on. 35. According to the passage, Wolf chooses the setting of the bridge because it. Let's see. Well, the main idea of that paragraph, close at hand is a bridge over the River Thames, an admirable vantage ground for us to make a survey. That is the first sentence. I'm willing to bet that that's going to be the framing of this entire paragraph. So if she chooses it, I think it's because it's an admirable vantage ground for us to make a survey. Conducive to a mood of fanciful reflection. She kind of said that. She said like it was a place to stand on dreaming, right? A place to stand on by the hour dreaming. But not now. She like contrasted away from it. So it would be really strange to say that the thing from which she contrasted away is the main idea. Like, it wouldn't be. Provides a good view of the procession of the sons of educated men. That would correspond with vantage point. Is within sights of historic episodes to which she alludes. That would be like the buried piece of evidence that has nothing. That's like that's just buried context. It's something that they mentioned deep within the paragraph that ignores the framing sentence. So then I feel like C is going to be a trap. Symbolic of the legacy of past and present. This is just unmentioned. Okay, so then it's provides a good view of the procession of the sun. B. Our first paired question in a while. So Wolf indicates that the procession she describes in the passage. We can do the backdoor strat here, I think. So let's see if we can put it into action. I doubt that it's going to be a line that's really early, but this test has already kind of been a little weird with the line principle, so we'll check. There they go, our brothers who have been educated at public schools, universities, okay, so there they go. Well, unless there's an answer in 36 that says the men are going, there's no way that that's right. Okay, so 17 to 19. It's a solemn sight, always a procession, like a caravanserai crossing a desert. Okay, so unless there's an answer in 36 that says that it's a solemn sight, practical, no. Celebrated, no. Richest and most powerful is crazy. All the richest and most powerful men, this is the triple extreme. Wow, it's really strong. Less exclude. Okay, so then even without doing the backdoor strat, like I think it's 36D because A, B, and maybe A I could see like kind of going, but like I can recall that she like said D, so I'm pretty sure it's that, but we'll find the evidence anyway. 23, for their traipsing along at the end of the procession, we go ourselves. Oh, that might match with D. And then so 37D, let me just check. We too can leave the house. Can mount those steps. Interesting. So it's the backdoor rule that I'm always talking about, where 37's line should mention the stuff in 36's question. Because like if I use a line in 37 to answer 36, then College Board's going to be like, how do you know that line was about the procession? Like if you read lines 30 to 34, they're going to be like, wait, isn't this just about like the ladies leaving the house and mounting steps and passing in and out of doors and making money and administering justice? What does this have to do with the procession? And I'm going to be like, well, it's obviously they're joining it, and College Board's gonna be like, well, how do you know that? Like, you didn't literally tell me. And then I'm gonna be like, oh my God, you guys are terrible. So I'm pretty sure 37 is C, and 36 is D. Tricky, tricky, tricky. Wolf characterizes the question in lines 53 to 57 as both, let's see, 53, 1, 2, 3. For we have to ask ourselves here and now, do we wish to join that procession, or don't we? Oh, didn't she say that it's like, it's really urgent? We have like on line 49. Oh yeah, that was the last main idea from the contrast sentence from line 45. It was like, we're not here to talk about fashions, we're here to ask ourselves questions. And then she's like, we have really little time to do it. So once again, our main idea is pointing us in the right direction. Wolf characterizes the questions as both. I don't think I even need to backdoor, given that I just found the line. It's not threatening. I don't think she even says it's controversial, so A's gone. Weighty and unanswerable? No way. No way that she would be such a nego. And then C, momentous and pressing. I think it's that. Provocative and I don't think it's like a mysterious forest or whatever. Okay, so 38C. And then which one's the best evidence? We just make sure that it corroborates. I think it's, let's see, 46 to 47. We're here to ask questions. No, 48 to 49 was it? Yeah, and they are very important questions. We have very little time in which to answer. I think it's that. I'm going to check the rest just for like safety's sake, but we'll make sure. The moment is short. It may last 5 years. Perfect, right? Like this doesn't mention the questions of like it mentioned in 38's directions. And then so once again, College Board's hoping I picked that, I think. Then 39D. 62, that excuse shall not serve you. Okay, what excuse? I have literally no idea what you're talking about there. And so I'm pretty sure that it's like 38C with 39B, with 39C being the decoy. 40. Which choice most closely captures the meaning of the figurative sixpence referred to in lines 70 and 71? They have thought while they stirred the pot, while they rocked the cradle. It was thus that they won us the right to our brand new sixpence. Oh, like the brand new right to join the procession. Like sixpence is like a piece of money, right? And then so like they got a right to a new form of currency. And I think that's sort of like, she's saying it as a metaphor. It's like a form of social currency, the fact that they can join this procession. How are we going to spend that opportunity or something? Yeah. Oh, well, okay, great. For the choice most closely, I mean, I think it's C, like opportunity. Once again, showing that the targeting principle works pretty nicely sometimes. 41, the range of places and occasions listed in lines 72 to 76. Let us funerals. Oh, let us to funerals. Interesting. Like we said earlier, the main clauses of those sentences was let us think, let us think, let us think. Thrice. I think that this question is going to be about let us think. B. Easy. Ow. Nice, making good progress. So onwards, last one. I'm just checking the blurb up top. It doesn't look like there's anything too useful there. So off we go. Follow the money and you'll end up in space. Oh, cool. That's the message from a first-of-its-kind forum on mining beyond Earth. Convened in Sydney by the Australian Centre for Space Engineering Research, the event brought together mining companies, robotic experts, lunar scientists, and government agencies that are all working to make space mining a reality. Nice. The forum comes hot on the heels of the 2012 unveiling of the two private asteroid mining firms. Planetary Resources of Washington says it will launch its first prospecting telescopes in 2 years, while Deep Space Industries of Virginia hopes to be harvesting metals from asteroids by 2020. Another commercial venture that sprung up in 2012, Golden Spike of Colorado, will be offering trips to the moon, including to potential lunar miners. Now, while on line 13 can sometimes be used as a contrast, but I think here it's just kind of saying like at the same time, so I didn't get the sense it was like a however, which is why I didn't like stop there. Within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly demands for precious metals such as platinum and gold, and the rare earth elements vital for personal electronics such as yttrium, and lanthanum. Who comes up with these names? But contrast transition, okay, that's something I understand. This is going to be important, I think. Like the gold rush pioneers who transformed the western United States, the first space miners won't just enrich themselves. They also hope to build an off-planet economy free of any bonds with Earth, in which the materials extracted and processed from the moon and asteroids are delivered for space-based projects. In this scenario, water mined from other worlds could become the most desired commodity. In the desert, what's worth more, a kilogram of gold or a kilogram of water, asks Chris Zachney of Honeybee Robotics in New York. Gold is useless. Water will let you live. True. I don't know about the gold being useless part. It's useful, isn't it? Water ice from the moon's poles could be sent to astronauts on the International Space Station for drinking or as a radiation shield. Okay, I feel like that'd be like unhealthy, is it? Anyway, whatever. Splitting water into oxygen and hydrogen makes spacecraft fuel, so ice rich on asteroids could become interplanetary refueling. I guess water's water. I guess it like wouldn't matter. Companies are eyeing the iron, silicon, and aluminum in lunar soil and asteroids, which could be used in 3D printers to make spare parts or machinery. Others want to turn space dirt into concrete for landing pads, shelters, and roads. Wow, interesting. So lots of kind of like positive, hopeful tones here I got. Now, some people like to do passage one and then answer the passage one related questions, and I think that's totally up to you. It's like a matter of personal comfort. I personally just like reading both of them because I've just been trained to read it, like try not to take any shortcuts. I don't really necessarily think that actually that's like too much of a shortcut, so it's just a preference thing. Like I kind of want to see what the relationship of passage 2 is. Like I don't want to be left on a cliffhanger. Yeah. So let's see. The motivation for deep space travel is shifting from discovery to economics. The past year has seen a flurry of proposals aimed at bringing celestial riches down to Earth. No doubt this will make a few billionaires even wealthier, but we all stand to gain. The mineral bounty and spin-off technologies could enrich us all. Oh, nice. So positive. But before the miners start firing up their rockets, we should pause for... Okay, so not so positive. At first glance, space mining would seem to sidestep most environmental concerns. There is probably no life on asteroids and thus no habitats to trash. But its consequences, both here on Earth and space, merit careful consideration. Okay, so that one positive paragraph didn't last very long, and this guy seems to be much more cautious. Part of this is about principles. Some will argue that space's magnificent desolation is not ours to despoil, just as they argue that our own planet's poles should remain pristine. Others will suggest that glutting ourselves on space's riches is not an acceptable alternative to developing more sustainable ways of earthly life. I like that way of phrasing it, glutting ourselves. History suggests that those will be hard lines to hold, and it may be difficult to persuade the public that such barren environments are worth preserving. After all, they exist in vast abundance, and even fewer people will experience them than have walked through Antarctica's icy landscapes. There's also the emerging off-world economy to consider. The resources that are valuable in orbit and beyond may be very different to those, should be different from those, we prize on Earth. I'm not sure. Questions of their stewardship have barely been broached, and the relevant legal and regulatory framework is fragmentary, to put it mildly, negative. Space miners, like their earthly counterparts, are often reluctant to engage with such questions. One speaker at last week's Space Mining Forum in Sydney, Australia, concluded with a plea that regulation should be avoided, but, potentially a positive turn, is it? Miners have much to gain from a broad agreement on the for-profit exploitation of space. I think it's positive, but then the way you phrased for-profit exploitation of space sounded like a little cynical. Okay, we'll see. Without consensus, claims will be disputed, investments risky, and the gains made insecure. It is in all of our long-term interests to seek one out. Okay, so kind of not super positive, but more positive than how the paragraph started. And I would say more of a hopeful note than the rest of the passage had, but let's see. In lines 9 to 17, the author of passage 1 mentions several companies, primarily 2, 9 to 17. Okay, so let's look at the framing sentence of this paragraph. The forum comes hot on the heels of a 2012 unveiling of 2 private asteroid mining firms, so it's going to be about the unveiling of the 2 private asteroid mining firms. I think it's probably going to talk about how they're interested in space or something. Note the technological, okay, those companies are not advances. Provide evidence for the growing interest in space mining. I think it's probably that. Emphasize the large profits, the companies are not profits. Highlight the diverse ways to carry out, the companies that are not diverse ways to carry out space mining operations. So I'm pretty sure this is B. 43. The author of passage 1 indicates that space mining could have which positive effect. Oh, nice. Let's just find a line in 44 that's talking about space mining positive effect. 18 to 22. Within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly demands for precious metals such as platinum and gold, and rare earth elements vital for personal electronics, such as yttrium and lanthanum. Okay. I'm not sure that this said space mining, so then I think College Board is going to potentially be like, oh, wait, I don't know if it said space mining. Maybe it's just like an actual industry. So I'd say like a maybe, but it's a little iffy. 24 to 28. They also hope to build an off-planet economy free of any bonds with Earth, in which the materials extracted and processed from the moon and asteroids are delivered for space-based project. Yeah, maybe that one might be a little better. 29 to 30. In this, water mined from worlds could become the most desired commodity. I'm not sure that's a positive thing. So I'm gonna pass on that one. I think like if water's in super high demand, then wouldn't it mean that some people can't get it? Okay. Companies are eyeing the iron, silicon, and aluminum in lunar soils and asteroids, which can be used in 3D printers to make spare parts or machinery. Okay, so then there are a couple here I think that might be contenders, like A, B, and D. But then we can just rely on the second rule, that being that top questions answer choice must be fully substantiated. So then if I'm looking for, it could yield materials important to Earth's economy. Let's see what could corroborate that. It needs to mention Earth's economy. And ideally space. Within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly needs for precious metals. Yeah, this does say the metals, and it says they're precious. But I still have that issue with 44A not talking about space mining explicitly. Could 24 to 28 be better? They also hope to build an off-world economy free of any bonds in which materials extracted and processed on the moons are delivered for space-based. This is actually not talking about the economy. Oh, we might be in an interesting situation here where the 2 rules are in contention, and then I can point out which one of the 2 is the more important one in that situation. But let's see. 40. Companies are eyeing the iron, silicon, aluminum in lunar soil and asteroids that can be used in 3D printers that make space parts. Could yield materials important to Earth's economy. I don't know if you could say that 3D printers are like part of Earth's economy. I'm leaning here towards, I think, 43A and 44A. Let me just check the other answer choices for 43. Yeah. And then so it's what it's what I was mentioning before about when those two rules are in contention. So if you have a line in 44 that is mentioning like 43's directions, but then fails to pair with an answer in 43's answer choices, then it can't be right. Like the correct answer would have to create a pair. So the second rule, the one that says that everything in 43's answer must be substantiated, that one's the more important one if you had to choose between the two. Now, most of the time, the correct answer will have both characteristics. The correct line will mention space mining and will mention everything in 43A. But given that that wasn't possible here, then I'm inclined to lean 43A, 44A. Yeah, I think so. 45, as used in lines 19, demands most nearly means. Within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly demands for like the need for it or how much, whatever. It's not offers. The demands is like how much you need it. Claims, I think it's D, desires. It sounds a little strange, but we want to make sure that when we plug it in, it sounds okay. They may be meeting earthly desires for precious metals. I think it's okay. I think that the other ones sound weirder, and then so for that reason, then I would go with D. Also in vocabulary, this is a rule that's kind of dangerous to use because it assumes that you're familiar with the definition of every definition of a word. But one thing I've noticed is that on vocab questions, the correct answer would have to be an actual synonym or definition of demands. So if you have an answer choice that fits when you plug it into the sentence, but it doesn't mean to demand something, like A, for example. If you're demanding something, you're getting someone to, you're asking someone to give it to you, whereas if you offer, it's kind of like the opposite. And then even if A sounded correct, it wouldn't be able to be correct given that it wouldn't answer the question, because like they're asking you specifically what demands means. Then okay. 46. What function does the discussion of water in lines 33 to 40 serve in passage 1? 35 to 40. Water from the moon's poles could be sent to astronauts and then blah, 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 splitting. Okay, so it's just talking about possible uses for water. It continues an extended comparison that begins in the previous. I don't know if it's a comparison, unless they're talking about the water to gold comparison, but I don't think they mentioned the gold here. It's a little iffy. It provides an unexpected answer to I don't think it's unexpected. It offers hypothetical examples supporting a claim made in the previous paragraph. Maybe, because there was a lot of like could be, that sort of conditional tone. It examines possible outcomes of a proposal. I don't think it's a proposal. I think it's C. 47. The central claim of passage 2 is that space mining has positive potential, but we need to get our act together before we do anything. It'll end up encouraging humanity's reckless treatment of the environment. Reckless treatment of environment part, I don't know. Its effects should be thoroughly considered before it becomes a reality. That was kind of what I said. Such potential may not include replenishing key resources that are disappearing on Earth. Okay, that's random. Experts disagree about the commercial viability of the discoveries it could yield. I don't think it had that either. Or if it did, it was in like if I'm looking at, like, none of these answer choices struck me as something that represented the entire passage. Like 47's asking for the central claim of the passage. And then so you'll notice, like, when I went through some of them, I was like, oh, like, that's random. And then maybe there might have been some place where it was specifically mentioned, but then what I meant by random is that I don't think you could make a case that that was the central claim of the passage, because the central claim would be something that would have to be, like, relatively ubiquitous or, like, omnipresent throughout the passage, which is why I was like, oh, I think it's, like, B. All right, 48. As used in line 68, hold most nearly means? History suggests that those will be hard lines to hold. What lines? I'm going to read more context. Others will suggest, I'm just going to read above a little. Others will suggest that glutting ourselves on space's riches is not an acceptable alternative to developing more sustainable ways of earthly life. History suggests that those will be hard lines to hold, like hard lines to defend or something. And it may be difficult to persuade the public. Hard lines to maintain seems pretty good. Yeah, hard lines to grip, not that physical. Hard lines to, I'm not trying to hold the lines back. Hard lines to withstand. I'm not being attacked by the lines. It's A. 49. Which statement best describes the relationship between the passages? One's less positive. Passage 2 refutes the central claim. I don't think so. Too strong. Passage 2 illustrates a phenomenon described in more general terms. That actually would imply that they're kind of on the same side. So I think that they'd still be in contention. Passage 2 argues against the practicality of proposals put forth, maybe. Passage 2 expresses reservations about developments, it's good. So then I think it's going to be C or D. And then once again, it's the proposals element, I think, in answer choice C that stands out to me. So I'm not sure that they're talking about proposals. Where's the paperwork? Where's the form that everyone had to sign for the proposal? Yeah, I don't think so. I think it's D. Expresses reservations about developments, the developments being that like space mining might be a feasible thing soon. 50, the author of passage 2 would most likely respond to the discussion of the future of space mining in lines 18 to 28, passage 1, by claiming that let me go unpack that question first before I try to backdoor anything. So discussion, what does 18 to 28 say? Within a few decades, these firms may be meeting earthly demands for precious metals such as platinum and gold and the rare earth elements vital for personal electronics such as yttrium and blah, blah, blah. But so then the framing sentence is like, oh, like we might soon benefit a lot from space mining. But like the gold rush pioneers who transformed the Western United States, the first space miners won't just enrich them, they also hope to build an off-world economy free of any bonds with Earth in which the materials extracted and processed from the moon and asteroids are delivered for, yeah, so positive, positive, positive. And we already know that passage 2 is going to be a little bit skeptical of that. I think he's going to question the feasibility of that, to use the word that the College Board seems to love on this test. By claiming that such a future, I think I don't need to backdoor. I think I'm going to try to find an answer here that's going to be, that I feel like could be viable in 50 first, given that I sort of think I know what the answer is. Claiming that such a future is inconsistent with the sustainable use of space. I don't think he says like it's impossible. It will be difficult to bring about in the absence of regulation, seems kind of nice. Cannot be attained without technologies that do not exist yet. I don't think so. Seems certain to affect Earth's economy in like I remember him saying B. I think it was like in the last paragraph or something where there was a contrast and he was like, oh yeah, like but if we don't have like a consensus, then things will go wrong. Seems certain to affect Earth's economy in it. Certain to okay, so D I think seems a little bit too strong there. It's like a little overly negative. It's a little overly certain, just ironically. Okay, so then let's see if 51, if we have anything that matches with B. And like I said, I think that it's towards the end. I'm going to start from the bottom. Without consensus, claims will be disputed, investments risky, and gains made insecure. Maybe? I don't know if that matches too well with the regulations part, or if it mentions the future of space mining, so we'll see. You got one speaker at last week's concluded with a plea. Okay, so that one definitely can't be, because I have literally no idea like what it is that he said. Concluded with a plea that regulation should be avoided. Like I don't know like how he phrased that or whatnot. This is just like a summary of that. So I feel like that wouldn't be clear enough evidence. Let me just double check. He's also kind of saying the opposite, right? Where he's saying that like there shouldn't be any regulation. So not a contender. 74 to 76. The resources that are valuable in orbit may and beyond may be different from those okay, this doesn't, I don't think this matches with the regulation part. 60 to 63, I don't think it'd be that early. Part of this is about principles. Some will argue that space's magnificent desolation is not ours to despoil, just as they argue that our planet's poles should remain pristine. A little bit random if we're talking about bring about in the absence of regulations. So once again, I kind of have like a line that's not a perfect contender in that I don't think that there were any lines that specifically mentioned space mining, unless I missed something, and also corroborated 50B like fully. So then I want to pick the answer choice that I think corroborates 50B as well as possible, even if it doesn't mention the directions. Like I said earlier, if they gave us an answer choices that mentioned the directions and corroborated 50B, that would be ideal. I'm just going to take a look at 51D again, I think. Without consensus, claims will be disputed, investments risky, and gains made insecure. It's in all of our long-term interest to seek one out. The one is a consensus there, I think. Okay, so then... yeah, and then if we look at the framing sentence that's operating on this part of the paragraph, it's that contrast transition from up above where it says, but miners have much to gain from a broad agreement on the for-profit exploitation of space. So definitely about agreeing on stuff. Now, generally you don't want to bring sentences that are outside of the lines provided to support your argument, but it can be helpful just to see sort of what the contextual what main idea is in effect at that point. It essentially kind of just extrapolates more on the consensus portion of it. So I'm leaning towards 51D and 50B for lack of a better option. If they had a nicer one, then I would have gone with that. 52. Which point about the resources that will be highly valued in space is implicit in passage 1 and explicit in passage 2? Okay. It's implicit in passage 1 and explicit in passage... So I have to literally go find the... Oh, great. They may be different resources from those that are valuable on Earth. They will be valuable only if they can be harvested cheaply. I think that B is preposterous. Like, I'm sure that if there's some super rare, like, alien mineral out there, even if it costs $1 billion to go get, it's definitely going to be valuable. So I can't see B, like, being truthful. They're likely to be primarily precious metals and rare earth elements. That didn't passage 1 say that, like about the yttrium and the lanthanum thing that I can't pronounce, and then the gold and whatever? I think that C is wrong. They may increase in value as those same resources become rare on Earth. I don't feel like we had this kind of like inverse relationship between like Earth resources and space resources, but I think yes, I would check for A and D. So let me make sure that A is implicit in passage 1. And explicit in passage 2. They need different resources. A weird, last time-consuming question to end on. Has been a flurry of revolves here on Earth. Great. Some will argue that its desolation is there. Blah 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 blah. The off-world economy here on line 73. There's also the emerging off-world economy to consider. The resources that are valuable in orbit and beyond may be different to those we prize. Oh, maybe it is D. Questions of their stewardship have barely been approached, and the relative legal regulatory framework is fragment. Let me read D again. Oh, no, that supports A. Sorry, I mixed them up in my mind. It's all a jumble now. So A, they definitely said it. Let's see. If A has it implicitly. They had that issue with the water part. Let's see. Yeah, a good example of a question that we want to be really careful of. So an implicit indication here. And then when they say that it's implicit, we still want to be able to point at something in the passage that's going to indicate that. So let's see. Maybe line 25 looks a little possible, but not really. I think that you could make a case for like the water part, where they're saying like water is going to become like really valuable. Now, I sort of have an issue with that because I feel as though it doesn't, I feel as though it says the water part quite explicitly. And I think that the wiggle room there comes from the fact that answer choice A is talking about how they may be different resources, like plural. And then the passage 1, as far as I can tell, only spoke about water. So then that's why it would be implicit that there are other elements, such as water, that would be affected in a similar way. So I'm going to go with A. But yeah, a bit of a weird question that I haven't really seen too much on the recent SATs. But there we go. All right, well, onwards to writing section. Next.